we're here at Rags to Riches headquarters. We're going to go in depth with Omar himself and kind of give you guys more of an insight about what his business is about and how it's ran. We met a while back and we've had our first annual pop-up last year, and we're doing our second one this Saturday and Sunday. We've worked well together in the past, and we're really excited to bring something new to you guys. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Here we go. Alrighty guys, so we're here with Omar. We're very excited about our second annual vintage pop-up. So how did it begin?
So we met through mutual friends. Chris gave me an opportunity. I gave him my business plan in a sense, and what I do, how I do, and showed him what the potential can be. He gave me a shot. The rest is history.
Oh, there it is.
You know?
So we kind of met through Reverend Boutique, correct?
We met through Reverend. Shout out Reverend.
That was what, almost 3 years ago?
That was 3 years. 3 years ago.
3 years ago. So essentially, the first time we had met, we talked about doing some type of vintage pop-up with Passport, and a year went by and we did nothing. And so eventually we just came back for last year was the year we actually did our first ever vintage pop-up, which went extremely well.
It was a great success. It was really good event.
I knew nothing about vintage. I had learned a lot in that 2 days.
I didn't know a lot about retail, so hey,
and
it was a compliment.
It's kind of crazy to see, and wouldn't you say it's crazy to see how nowadays how inspired all the new fashions are by the old vintage.
Absolutely. I mean, you can take, for instance, one of the biggest names right now, Jerry Lorenzo. You know, I've met him and seen him, have the opportunity to be grateful enough to meet him and speak to him, and actually shopped with him one time at the Rose Bowl swap meet where I used to go. And it was interesting seeing him take what he was making his joggers out of. So he would buy vintage Adidas like windbreaker pants or the joggers, and then that's what you see now, the Fear of God joggers, you know, or the huge long coats, or the t-shirts that he did with Maxfield. So it is it's kind of crazy because, you know, this was my hobby. You know, it went from my hobby to this basically huge empire now, you know, necessarily not for me yet, but soon it's getting to that point where it's getting to be something really big for myself. I'm extremely grateful for that.
So let's dig into a little bit about you. So when would you say personally, before the business, when did you officially begin collecting vintage goods?
Over a decade ago. I was a junior in high school.
And that was just meant for you to wear, or it was just meant for you to, like, was it something that you were like, I'm buying these clothes because I want to wear them and make a fashion statement? Were you buying them because that's all you could get at the moment? Or was it just raw interest?
It was very influential on my brother's part. So them growing up in the 90s, and obviously me being a 90s baby, my brothers always had the sneakers. You know, that was the first thing. And then I got into like the vintage champion jerseys, like obviously Michael Jordan, stuff like that. And then also I had a couple buddies that were already doing it, and they just invited me like, hey, let's go to the Goodwill. And then just started realizing what I was finding, and then it just turned into a huge passion because it was just some of the sickest stuff out there, you know. It was, and also one of a kind, you know, at the time.
So, like, I know the challenges of trying to sell products.
Yes.
So what would you say some of your biggest challenges are? Because truthfully, when you're buying something, there's no real saying if like someone's gonna love it or someone's gonna hate it.
Exactly.
So with that, like, what would you say some of your, like, as far as being a vintage business, what would you say some of your biggest struggles are when it comes to getting off some of the vintage goods?
So the biggest challenge obviously is sometimes you're like, you see something, you could love it, but that necessarily doesn't mean that someone else will love it. But it also just comes with experience. Honestly, like me doing it for such a long time, I know what obviously moves immediately. So I know what to pick up, what not to pick up. And honestly, now it's even easier now because it's so trendy. I can just follow trends. Of course, everybody wants Guess, Tommy, and, you know, anything starter or anything like that, or champion jerseys. So anytime you find that, clearly it's just a go.
And with Guess and starter, with all and even champion just becoming so like accessible.
Yeah.
Are you finding that it's easier to sell those items, or is it the more that they're coming to market with like Urban Outfitters, PacSun, Tilly's and
Yes.
places like that. Is that making it more difficult, or is it actually bringing more people out of the woodworks looking for particular items?
I would say it just depends on the customer, because there's obviously what we call wave riders, you know, people that just ride the wave. So there are still a lot of people out there that rather have the original. And to be honest, one thing that I feel like separates me from a lot of other vintage businesses, I stay extremely competitive in my price. There's people that charge 3 times of what I charge, and people have told me like, whoa, I can't believe you're selling it for this price. But I do it because of the true meaning it has to me and what I love the product, and to see that product keep living after 20 more years, that I'd rather sell it to somebody cheap so they can rock it versus them go to the store, pay $60 when things already remade.
I remember at last year's pop-up, you would sell something and if you and be like, yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one, right? And you're like, no, I just can't believe I let that go.
Yeah.
Like there was like some things, like some deep breaths moments.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
man.
are you all right? He's like, yeah, I'm just trying to like fathom the fact that I just sold that. Like there's you have a lot of connection with your pieces. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel like it was such a successful pop-up. It was great to see. Like I said, there were some things that you couldn't believe you got rid of. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, we would sit and you would talk, and you'd be happy that you were able to suit people up.
Exactly.
And is that? I mean, it's fulfilling, right? Just when you see people wearing, when I sell clothes myself, and I just see people out, and they're just like, yeah, like. That guy got that for me, and that just feels good.
It's a great feeling. It is a great feeling.
All right, so everybody's curious. What are a few of your favorite items?
Shoot, man. Let's see. Well, I have a couple here picked out, which are like some of my first, but obviously one of my biggest grails here, if I can get it out, is this piece right here. So obviously, the Covenant, you know, Tupac, Biggie type vintage tees what they did when, you know, all this was going on back in the 90s. It's just a crazy piece. You know, this one too, it's been kind of sought after. You know, believe it or not, this shirt's worth $600. So
banger.
Yeah, and especially because it has both of them, and it was just trying to promote Please Stop the Violence, you know, 1996, 1997. This was a crazy find. I actually paid $5 for this. This is the first time I went to the Rose Bowl. So it was a pretty good
bigger like heart drops.
Yeah, I haven't let this go. It's been over 10 years, so it's probably never gonna go. So that was one of my first like iconic finds. So that was pretty cool. That one right there. Nice. That.
We just toss that $600 shirt over there.
That's how we treat it around here. And this one too was actually my first vintage like crazy. I'm a huge Bulls fan, so this was my first find, my first dollar find here.
Wow.
This crazy Covenant. We be jamming Magic Johnson all over print tee. Funny story behind it too, but I don't know. I won't say that. But
the heat count.
Yeah, that's a crazy one right there. Also, man, just like why I do what I do. You know, it's like this right here.
Donkey Kong.
You know, like you see this right, and like everybody in this room right now is smiling. Yeah. So, like this obviously takes us back to such a pure time. I don't want to get it mushy, but. Like nowadays in the world, it's kind of messed up a little bit. You know, like back in the day, from what I can remember, I just remember coming home, turning on my 64.
This was our Fortnite.
You guys are. You guys are. I don't even want to get into that. You guys are crazy. Like, play this, dude. I will buy everybody a 64. Just please drop Fortnite. But this, man, it's just. It takes you back to such a pure place in your life or a memory. And that's what I do, man. I just like to promote happiness and goodness and just give people that great feeling. You know, like that's like, I feel like one of my purposes is here on earth to just make people feel good.
One more thing before we go. We're going to be having an exclusive Rags to Riches and Passport collaboration.
It's going to be limited to 20 pieces, so make sure you get there early enough on Saturday. Is probably when we're going to drop them. We might drop 10 one day, 10 one day. So we'll talk about that
limited.
Later.
It's going to be extremely limited, so first come, first serve. Again, we'll see you guys then, and remember, it's a good day to have a good day. Always. If you like this video, drop a thumbs up. If you're bored, leave a comment. Talk to you guys soon.